She's probably been put in there because, according to Donald Trump, she's a 10.
Ever-empowering feminist, Joy herself, everyone. And this is why, of course, she's on The View and not working for the most powerful man in the world, because Karoline would wipe the floor with you bitter banshees any day.
The whole drama between Karoline and The View just escalated to another level. Now it looks like the hosts are in full panic mode, scrambling to piece things back together after Karoline absolutely wrecked them. And let's be real, did they have it coming? A lot of people sure think so.
About that, and watching this clip, I couldn't help but think how ironic that Whoopi Goldberg and Joy Behar and the rest of the ladies on The View spend their time calling Republicans the conspiracy theorists. But they have been wrong about everything they have said over the last couple of years. They likened President Trump to Hitler. They have mocked him. They have shamed him. They have lied about him consistently on their show. And it was a joy to watch them on November the 6th when they realized that tens of millions of Americans do not listen to the lies that they have spewed. These women are completely out of touch with reality. And you're right, ABC should wake up.
If you've been out of the loop and wondering how this whole mess started, buckle up because this drama is next level. The chaos is all over the airwaves, and at the center of it is Karoline Leavitt, shaking up the political scene like a storm. Now, The View is no stranger to controversy, but this time they played themselves. The moment Karoline stepped in as Trump's press secretary, the Democrats wasted no time launching their attack. Yep, that was the argument, but instead of damaging her credibility, their smear campaign completely backfired. What started as petty jealousy has turned into a full-blown disaster for The View. Their credibility is in shambles, their narrative is falling apart, and thanks to Karoline's fearless, no-nonsense approach, the hosts are now scrambling to control the damage. And spoiler alert, it's not going well.
She's probably been put in there because, according to Donald Trump, she's a 10.
She said something yesterday that really pissed me off. And that was, she said, there will be no wokeness here.
Oh, yeah.
Let me explain something to you. Because without that wokeness, you might not have that job.
Yeah.
Because women were not invited to that table. Mm-hmm. Women were not invited to many tables in this nation. The reason we fought and busted our behinds to make sure that you didn't have to worry about this. She said something yesterday that really pissed me off. And that was, she said, there will be no wokeness here.
Oh, yeah.
Let me explain something to you. Because without that wokeness, you might not have that job.
Yeah.
Because women were not invited to that table. Mm-hmm. Women were not invited to many tables in this nation. The reason we fought and busted our behinds to make sure that you didn't have to worry about this. And now to hear you talk about it and to hear anybody talk about the wokeness was put in place for a reason.
Karoline used her first White House press conference to call out the legacy media for losing the trust of everyday Americans. And just like clockwork, Whoopi pulled the race card, shifting the discussion from media accountability to identity politics, a classic deflection. Rather than addressing the real issue at hand, she went on a tangent, saying because black people couldn't get into colleges, because women couldn't get into the colleges they wanted to go to, this is all women. But Whoopi didn't stop there. She went full condescension mode, claiming that Karoline doesn't even understand what wokeness means. According to Whoopi, Karoline only criticizes it because she thinks it's a terrible thing to be. Whoopi doubled down, saying, "It's not a terrible thing to be." That's why we fought. That's what we're fighting for, so that you could stand at that podium, so that Karine Jean-Pierre could stand at that podium, so women of all colors and backgrounds, wherever they came from, whatever their beliefs were, could have the opportunity to bust down that door.
Karoline used her first White House press conference to call out the legacy media for losing the trust of everyday Americans. And just like clockwork, Whoopi pulled the race card, shifting the discussion from media accountability to identity politics, a classic deflection. Rather than addressing the real issue at hand, she went on a tangent, saying, because black people couldn't get into colleges, because women couldn't get into the colleges they wanted to go to, this is all women. But Whoopi didn't stop there. She went full condescension mode, claiming that Karoline doesn't even understand what wokeness means. According to Whoopi, Karoline only criticizes it because she thinks it's a terrible thing to be. Whoopi doubled down, saying, "It's not a terrible thing to be. That's why we fought. That's what we're fighting for. So that you could stand at that podium, so that Karine Jean-Pierre could stand at that podium, so women of all colors and backgrounds, wherever they came from, whatever their beliefs were, could have the opportunity to bust down that door." But let's be honest. Karoline knows exactly what wokeness is, and that's why. She called it out. Whoopi's attempt to gaslight the audience into thinking Karoline was just throwing around buzzwords completely backfired. Now, if you're one of those people who still thinks Karoline Leavitt didn't deserve the job, you're probably one of those who never heard about her background. Karoline Claire Leavitt was born in Atkinson, New Hampshire, and raised in a Roman Catholic family. Her parents ran an ice cream shop and a used truck dealership in Plaistow, New Hampshire. She attended Central Catholic High School in Massachusetts before earning a scholarship to St. Anselm College, where she played NCAA Division II softball. Even back then, she was outspoken about her conservative views, defending Trump's policies in her school newspaper, and even founding the college's first broadcasting club. During her time in college, Leavitt built an impressive media and political resume, setting the stage for her rapid rise in the political world. So, there you have it. Karoline Leavitt is proving she's not just a face in the crowd, she's a force to be reckoned with. Whether it's taking on The View or exposing the flaws in the media, she's making her mark, and it's hard to ignore. Let's see how the rest of the political game plays out. But one thing's for sure, Karoline is here to stay. Thanks for tuning in. Catch you next time.
Now, this is where the irony hits like a freight train. These hosts love preaching about uplifting women, especially in the workplace, but the second Karoline steps up, boom, suddenly all that empowerment talk disappears and they reduce her success to nothing more than her looks. And let me tell you, people noticed. Critics dragged them for it because seriously, how can you claim to support women while tearing down a young, accomplished one in the same breath? The hypocrisy is so loud, it's practically screaming. But here's where it gets good. Karoline wasn't about to sit back and take it. Oh no, she fired back and exposed The View for exactly what they are. Out of touch, agenda-driven, and drowning in their own double standards. And honestly, she wasn't wrong. But hold up, if Karoline is a 10, where does that leave Joy Behar? Well, leave it to Greg Gutfeld from Fox News to deliver the punchline in his signature no mercy style. Greg didn't hold back, throwing some serious shade at Joy, and let's just say his commentary did not do her any favors.
They have spewed, "These women are completely out of touch with reality." And you're right, ABC should wake up.
But Karoline didn't just stop at Joy. Oh no, she had plenty to say about the Democratic propaganda machine too. She made it crystal clear they have two choices: either ride the Trump wave or get left in the dust. Because let's be real, once Trump is out of the picture, what scandals will they even have to keep them relevant? Without their usual media-driven distractions and endless narratives, their so-called power is nothing more than an illusion on borrowed time. And judging by the stunned silence on The View, they felt that reality check hard.
Joy Behar calls her a 10. I mean, how dare she objectify a woman with a rating system, but it's such a typical thing from a 1.5.
At this point, it's obvious to anyone with eyes. The hosts of The View aren't mad at Karoline because she's wrong. They're mad because she's younger, sharper, and actually deserving of the spotlight they've been hogging for decades. Their jealousy is practically dripping off the screen. And then there's Whoopi Goldberg, who swooped in like a mother hen trying to do damage control. But instead of addressing Joy's hypocrisy, she tried to shift the focus, scolding Karoline for what she called a lack of tolerance for weakness. Her exact words, "Whoopi wasn't preaching wisdom, she was scrambling." She tried to blur the lines between civil rights and wokeness as if they were the same thing. But Karoline, she wasn't buying it for a second. In a now viral moment, she shut Whoopi down with brutal precision, making it painfully obvious that Whoopi either doesn't know the difference or is deliberately misleading her audience. Now, if Whoopi Goldberg is such a fierce supporter of women's rights, then why didn't she call out Joy Behar for reducing Karoline's success to just her looks? Maybe because Whoopi's so-called moral compass only works when it benefits her narrative. Instead of holding her co-host accountable, she wasted no time turning the conversation against Karoline right after the 27-year-old dared to use her first White House press conference.
Please, his opponents are saying to this very day the same rhetoric that led to those two attempts. The second attempted on President Trump's life echoed the sentiment that President Trump is a democracy. And if you're a deranged lunatic and you're mentally ill, you will believe that lie, and yes, you will take political like we have seen in 2 instances against President Trump. Tim Walz and Kamala Harris said that everyone who showed up to President Trump's rally.
Meanwhile, the internet is going crazy. Within minutes, hashtags started trending. Karoline owns CNN. Caitlin Collins humiliated. Fake news CNN, and it only gets worse from there. CNN is in full meltdown mode. They know this is a disaster. Social media is flooded with clips of Karoline's epic takedown. People aren't just laughing at Caitlin. They're straight up questioning if she's even fit for the job. And CNN's response?
At Madison Square Garden was that's despicable, dangerous, divisive rhetoric that is spewed by the Democrat Party every single day. And I'm so sick and tired of the media pointing the finger at Donald Trump and saying that he is sowing division in this country. He is not. The media is for pushing hoaxes like the one that you all pushed today, and the Democrat Party is for pushing lies about him. But the good news is Americans don't buy it. And that's why today President Trump is more popular than he has been since 2016, because people don't trust the media.
The internet.
Pure panic. They start scrubbing clips from their platforms, fact checkers are scrambling to rewrite the narrative, and the network is desperately trying to shift focus. Anything to stop the embarrassment from spreading. But it's too late. Conservatives are memeing the life out of this moment. Even liberals are shaking their heads, admitting Caitlin walked straight into a trap. And the irony? CNN wanted to make Karoline look unprepared, but instead they just exposed their own incompetence. And just when you think it couldn't get any worse for Caitlin, oh, it does.
You mentioned the inflation executive order the president signed, but egg prices have skyrocketed since President Trump took office. So what specifically is he doing to lower those costs for Americans?
Really glad you brought this up, because there is a lot of reporting out there that is putting the onus on this White House for the increased cost of eggs. I would like to point out to each and every one of you that in 2024, when Joe Biden was in the Oval Office, or upstairs in the residence sleeping, I'm not so sure,
It's over. Karoline doesn't even blink. She drops a response so brutal.
Sure, egg prices increased 65% in this country. We also have seen the cost of everything, not just eggs. Bacon, groceries, gasoline have increased because of the inflationary policies of the last administration. As far as the egg shortage, what's also contributing to that is that the Biden administration and the Department of Agriculture directed the mass of more than 100 million chickens, which has led to a lack of chicken supply in this country, therefore a lack of egg supply, which is leading.
There's no coming back from it. And at this point, even CNN's own audience isn't buying the spin.
Are saying Trump doesn't have the legality to do this, but I asked Karoline Leavitt about that matter. She says it was the White House counsel who advised Trump that yes, he did have the authority to do so. Expect legal challenges to this, as there are a lot of questions about what it's going to affect. Veterans organizations, homeless shelters, disaster relief. There are so many agencies that are being touched by this pause, and really a big question. They say it's temporary, but the White House could not say.
One Twitter user summed it up perfectly. Imagine getting embarrassed this badly in front of the whole country. Karoline just ended Caitlin's career in under 3 minutes. Even CNN's producers are probably shaking their heads behind the scenes. Caitlin tried everything and still failed spectacularly. And just when she thought it couldn't possibly get worse, oh, it absolutely does. But this isn't just about one bad moment for Caitlin Collins. This is about why the media keeps losing credibility. They twist facts to push their own narrative. They act like they're the smartest people in the room. But Karoline just proved how quickly they crumble under pressure. Now, CNN is scrambling.
The comments that have been made by these Democrat leaders, and frankly, they don't even know what they're talking about. Because President Trump was elected with a mandate from the American people to make this government more efficient. And for Democrat officials...
Caitlin is humiliated, and Karoline? She just became more respected than ever. So here's the real question. Will CNN actually learn from this, or will they double down on their usual tactics? Either way, one thing is clear. Karoline Leavitt just raised the bar. And for CNN, that's a nightmare they won't be waking up from anytime soon.
They're melting down over the new press secretary.
Elected Democrats are so steamed about Doge. LaMonica McIver says we are at war. Ilhan Omar says we might actually see somebody get
It's unacceptable to incite and encourage Americans to take to the streets is incredibly alarming, and they should be held accountable for that rhetoric.
All right, let's take a second to talk about Karoline Leavitt. Because at just 27 years old, she's out here going head-to-head with some of the biggest names in politics and media, including the notoriously hostile hosts of The View. Karoline Leavitt isn't just young, she's making history. She's the youngest White House press secretary ever, and was also a key spokesperson for Donald Trump's campaign. Back in November, when Trump announced her as his pick, he made it clear he believed she would crush it at the podium and help get his message across loud and clear as part of his Make America Great Again movement.
Press conference for Donald Trump's press secretary, Karoline Leavitt. And if you assume she was a pretty white lady with a noticeable cross necklace, you were right. And of course she was Trump's press secretary during the campaign, but that was all about trashing Joe Biden. Now she's in an elevated position representing the White House, and she's here to talk about what the administration is going to do moving forward.
When Joe Biden was in the Oval Office, or upstairs in the residence sleeping, I'm not so sure.
Oh, shit! Didn't you see that coming, did you, old man, huh? Nailed your sleepy ass. But seriously, you get one. All right, so let's move forward. Today, everyone wants to know about the federal spending freeze that Trump's been doing. So what's that about?
We've seen the Biden administration spend money like drunken sailors.
Oh, boom! Drunken sailors! Everyone knows they spend so much money.
Trump described her as smart, tough, and an extremely effective communicator. And honestly, he wasn't wrong. Leavitt is a New Hampshire native with a background in communications and political science from St. Anselm College. But she wasn't just studying, she was already making moves. While still in school, she interned at Fox News and even worked in Trump's White House press office. She once told Politico that those experiences gave her her first real taste of the press world, and from that moment on, she knew this was the career she wanted. By 2019, fresh out of college, she was already working in the Trump administration. She started as a presidential speechwriter before moving up to assistant press secretary. During her time there, she helped prep Press Secretary Kayleigh McEnany for some of the toughest press briefings and went toe-to-toe with the biased mainstream media. And after leaving the White House, she didn't slow down. She became communications director for top Republican Elise Stefanik, who, by the way, is now Trump's pick for United Nations ambassador.
And may I just point out, if you heard that type of violent, enticing rhetoric from our side of the aisle, from Republican leaders on Capitol Hill, I think there would be a lot more outrage in this room today. It's unacceptable, the comments that have been made by these Democrat leaders, and frankly, they don't even know what they're talking about.
In other words, Karoline Leavitt isn't just a rising star. She's already at the top of the game. Karoline Leavitt wasn't always standing behind the White House podium. She actually ran for Congress first. Back in 2022, she won the Republican nomination for New Hampshire's 1st congressional district. But in the general election, she lost to Democrat Chris Pappas. Her campaign? All about Trump's priorities. She promised to cut taxes, push for pro-business, free market policies, and was a strong supporter of law enforcement. She also took a hard stance on illegal immigration, calling for zero tolerance and pushing to finish the border wall.
Be a lot more outrage in this room today. It's unacceptable, the comments that have been made by these Democrat leaders, and frankly, they don't even know what they're talking about. Because President Trump was elected with a mandate from the American people to make this government more efficient. He campaigned across this country with Elon Musk, vowing that Elon was going to head up the Department of Government Efficiency, and the two of them, with a great team around them, were going to look at the receipts of this federal government and ensure it's accountable to American taxpayers. That's all that is happening.
By January 2024, she was back on Trump's team, this time as his campaign press secretary for his 3rd run at the presidency. And there you have it. Karoline Leavitt just put on a masterclass in handling the media, leaving Caitlin Collins and CNN scrambling. This wasn't just a takedown. It was a wake-up call for the mainstream media. No spin, no edits. Just pure facts, shutting down the narrative in real time. And with social media blowing up, one thing is clear. People aren't buying the media's tricks anymore. This wasn't just a takedown. It was a wake-up call for the mainstream media. No spin, no edits. Just pure facts, shutting down the narrative in real time. And with social media blowing up, one thing is clear. People aren't buying the media's tricks anymore.